Hey guys, college football update, week 9. Let's start with Notre Dame as always, and we'll jump into some other games from there. Notre Dame loses to Michigan 45 to 14. I got to tell you, that is one of the worst games that I've ever seen a Notre Dame team play. The only games that I can think that were worse than that were when Notre Dame was completely uncompetitive in the 2000s against Southern Cal during the Pete Carroll era, and Southern Cal was so much better than Notre Dame. We knew that going into those games. As a Notre Dame fan, you knew they were going to get crushed. I mean, you hoped somehow that that wasn't going to happen, but you knew it was. I absolutely did not see this coming. I did not see them losing to Michigan this bad. Now, let me say something, though. Michigan, at the beginning of the year, and, hell, I'll look at it here. I've got a Athlon magazine, all right? You guys see it here. Michigan's on the cover, all right? So they were picked number 4 at the beginning of the year. So it's not as though they're talentless. I understand. They lost 2 games. They got crushed by Wisconsin. Football, it's interesting because football is a confidence game. It's always a confidence game. For some reason, Notre Dame went into that game with a lack of confidence. Quite honestly, just a lack of wanting to be there. It was weird. It was almost as though they just didn't want to play in the rain. They didn't want to deal with it. And they didn't. I mean, they did nothing. And Ian Book was just scatterbrained all night. And look, Phil Jurkovic is not the answer. You don't bring him in. He's not ready to play. That's a bigger problem in itself, that you have a second string quarterback that's absolutely not ready to play at Notre Dame. But look, it is what it is. Ian Book played awful. I've said this. Tony Jones has played well this season, absolutely better than I would have thought. But he's not a feature running back, and that's a problem as well. So all these people that predicted Notre Dame to go to the playoffs, you're idiots. They were never going to go to the playoffs. I predicted at the beginning of the year they would be 10-2 or 9-3. They're completely on track for that to happen. The one thing I am concerned about is them losing to Virginia Tech or one of these teams they're going to play coming up. Losing to Virginia Tech would be absolutely miserable for me because I don't think Virginia Tech's any good at all. They played 2 FCS teams. They're 5-2, but in my mind, you're really 3-2 if you played those 2 FCS teams. But honestly, if I'm a Virginia Tech fan, I might say the same thing about Notre Dame, given the fact that they played Bowling Green and New Mexico, who were 2 of the worst teams in Division One. So maybe it's an even match. I don't know. But here's my thing. Notre Dame is still on track to win 10 games. If they go 10-2, they go to a bowl game, they win that bowl game, they're 11-2. Not since the 90s has Notre Dame won 10 games in 3 seasons in a row. It's pathetic, it's sad, but it's true. So if they go 11-2, you can build on that next year. It takes a long time to get there. Let me say this about Paul Feinbaum saying that Notre Dame should hire Urban Meyer. Also an idiot. Notre Dame would never hire Urban Meyer just due to the fact that he is a man with a lack of character. You cannot, and honestly, any program that hires this guy, I mean, I get it. He wins games. I'm aware of that. And I know everybody's going to say, well, that's the name of the game. That's what you got to do. Hey, I get it, man. Whatever. I would rather Notre Dame never win a national championship again in my lifetime than to hire somebody like Urban Meyer to represent the school. That's how much I think that's how little I think of him. He is absolutely unequivocally a man of absolutely zero character that should not be working anywhere. He kept a domestic violence. A man who was not only accused, he was abusing his wife, kept her on staff, and lied about it. And his wife lied about it. And you can say what you want. They lied about it. I don't care. That absolutely is true. So, no, I do not want him coaching at Notre Dame. I'm fine with Brian Kelly. I wish he could win these games. And maybe he will at some point, but I'm not ready to completely cut the cord on that. Now, I will say, if they lose, their next 5 games in a row, this is an issue at that point. But let's see what happens. Let's let the season play out. Let's talk about some of the other games. Honestly, I didn't watch a lot of these guys because I was at the Charlotte, North Texas game, which is kind of exciting, actually. Charlotte, UNC Charlotte, a very young program, obviously, but, it's exciting. It's college football. I was there. I actually ended up leaving at the end of the third quarter, and then Charlotte won the game 39-38 in a barn burner. So kind of a shame, but, excited to see what Charlotte's going to be able to do. They're 3-5, but excited to see what they're going to be able to do with Will Healy. We've already talked about him in the past. Rutgers somehow beats Liberty 44-34. I mean, I have no idea how Rutgers could beat anyone. But so far, they've beaten Liberty and UMass. I think those are the only 2 wins. Liberty, not a good look. Come on. You can't lose to Rutgers. That's not good. Somehow, Illinois beat Purdue 24-6. If you haven't looked at the USA Today coaches database and who gets paid what they get paid, Jeff Brom gets paid an immense amount of money at Purdue. I understand he's had some injuries. I get it, but he gets paid an immense amount of money at Purdue. I think Purdue is now 2-6. I think, and he gets paid, I don't know, $5-6 million a year, something ridiculous for them to be 2-6. So come on, work through the injuries. Build up the roster, get that going. It's a second year. I understand, but you got to be more than just one guy. More is there one guy. You got to be more than the one guy. Okay, I keep saying more. It's getting confusing. So last week I said that Oklahoma was going to play Iowa State. I was wrong. It was Oklahoma State that was playing Iowa State, and then Oklahoma State beats Iowa State, and Oklahoma loses to Kansas State. So not surprised. This happens to Oklahoma every year. Where they're right there, and then somehow they lose to a team that probably shouldn't lose to. Although I will say Kansas State is playing tough. Former coach from North Dakota State, Chris Kleiman, really got them moving and trending in the right direction. So Oklahoma should be out of it at this point. I mean, who are they going to beat? Who are they going to play? There is no one else. It's done. So another 11-1, 12-1 season for Oklahoma. I mean, again, you going to fire him because he lost to Kansas State? I mean, come on. Give me a break with these people that want to fire coaches constantly. It's like, come on, man. I mean, be realistic about what your program is. I'm realistic about my program. I am. I'm extremely realistic about it. I wish they were better, but it is what it is. Minnesota stays undefeated, beats Maryland. Maryland's awful. We've talked about that forever. Hell of an offense. They scored 10 points again this week. Lost 52-10. This is exactly what I thought was going to happen in Maryland. I'm not shocked at all. But Minnesota stays 8-0. Now they play Penn State at home. This is when it gets tough for them. They play Penn State and then they play Iowa. Now I have to say, Minnesota normally loses both of these games. I'm not going to say that's going to happen, but it is normally what does happen to Minnesota because they just cannot keep it going. And then somehow lose. I think they play Northwestern at the end, and somehow they'd lose that too. They'd finish 8-3, go to a bowl game, and 9-3, 8-4, whatever. I'm hoping that's not the case. We'll see what happens, but we all know that has happened in the past. And then, let's see. I think that was it. Oh, the one other thing I was going to say about coaching hirings and firings. I'll talk about another program. Texas loses to TCU. I think it was 37-27. So Tom Herman, you're going to fire him too? They're 5-3. Honestly, I mean, think about this for a second. Who are you going to hire to replace him? Who's out there? I mean, again, it's Urban Meyer. You really want that guy coaching your team? I mean, really, you really want him coaching your team? And I wouldn't even make this argument about Urban Meyer. I keep going back to it. I'll even make this argument about Urban Meyer. The amount of talent that he had at Ohio State, how did he not win multiple national championships at Ohio State? He only lost 10 games or something. But how did he not win multiple national championships there? I'm dead serious. I mean, he did the exact same thing that Brian Kelly just did to Michigan. He lost to Purdue one year. I think he lost to Iowa one year. This is what he did. There was always one game where they came out and it was a lame duck. Yet somehow he's the answer. Come on. I mean, get over it. The last thing I will say, I do not agree, and I've said this, and I'm not going to go into a big hullabaloo about it, but I will just, I use that word. I will just say this. I do not think that college athletes should be paid. I do not think they should be paid. I do not think that they should get endorsement deals. I don't think any of that. Because the problem is you're opening up Pandora's box. I get it. All that stuff happens on the behind the scenes. You're going to tell me that. I understand. The problem is now you're bringing in corporations to pay these athletes. Right now it's just boosters. I mean, I get it. It's the big schools have boosters and they're paying the athletes and everything else. Once you bring in the corporations, it becomes an NFL environment, which is exactly what I do not want. Because now you're going to have more playoffs. They're going to come in and say, hey, you know what? You should have a 16-team playoff. Great. Now we're the NFL. And the NFL sucks. I'm sorry. It does. It doesn't matter. You're 4-4 and you're leading the division. That's exactly what we're going to deal with college football. You're going to have, 16th ranked, I don't know, 8-4 Notre Dame playing, number 1 Alabama getting crushed 62-6. what's the point? I mean, what does that do for anyone? That doesn't do anything for anybody. So I don't understand it. Keep it to the four. These college athletes are getting everything. No, I do not agree with paying them. So that's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. You will not change it. College education costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Free room and board, free food, free everything. They're in college. They're fine. All right, guys, thanks. Enjoy the games.